Now, consider this. Youths are not represented adequately in formal political institutions and processes such as parliament, political parties, elections, and public administrations. The situation is even more difficult for both young women as well as women at mid-level and decision-making leadership positions. Well, so says the UNDP. I'm now being joined by a young woman, Rinsola Abiola, who's a member of the APC Board of Trustees. She's also a communications specialist and an advocate for youth inclusion in politics. You're welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me, Margaret.
Now, is it okay to call you a politician?
Yes, it is.
At what point do people become politicians? I know some people have a problem with that tag.
Yeah, a lot of people do, because I think it's assumed a negative connotation along the line. But personally, I think wanting to be an active member of a community, to be involved in mobilization, representation, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed about. So it's a tag that I embrace, and it's a tag that I like, and it's a tag that I encourage other young people who are involved in politics to also embrace. Once you become a member of a political party, presently I think, and then you're active, you're doing something, I think you're qualified to be described as a politician.
So why did you become a politician?
I decided that I didn't just want to be a critic. I didn't just want to sit and tweet about what was wrong or make Facebook posts about how government isn't performing. I believe that I could also at least do my bit to maybe get in the system and begin to work from the inside. Some people say that's a very idealistic line of thought, but as far as I'm concerned, you can only do so much when you complain about something. Being actually part of the process and contributing to the system, contributing to achieving the differences you want to see, I think that goes a much longer way than just sitting and pointing fingers at what's wrong and what needs to be done. And also I believe politics remains one of the most effective vehicles to actually affect a large number of people positively, to make impacts on people's lives.
Well, you are now on the inside. How
Yes.
would you assess the involvement of other young people like yourself on the inside?
Talking about the APC government, as Ismail said during his interview, we have lots of young people in offices across the country. State governments, taking the federal, for example, as he said, there are young people in the presidency. The vice president's office is essentially filled with young people.
I'm using, you know, yes, we're using that as a sample, but then
Yes.
we're talking about women more specifically.
Okay. We have this group, for instance, on the APC Young Women Forum. Some of our members also work with principal officers within this government. We have one of us who's in the VP's office. We have, I'm in the Speaker's office. We have members like that we've attached to mentors also, for those who don't have an official designation just yet.
So you see more, will you say you see women interested in becoming politicians, or do you think that women are more interested in other things like fashion and, you know, I don't know, entertainment perhaps?
There's a general challenge with the involvement of women in politics. There are societal factors that work against the full participation or involvement. There's a stereotype we have to deal with, this social dictates talking about the fact that you're young. You even have some older women politicians saying you should marry and raise all your kids first before being politically involved. But personally, that's on the line of thought that I subscribe to. And we have had a challenge with getting more young women involved in politics. Many of them just believe politics isn't what they should be involved in. Even amongst the older generation, that's a factor also. So with the younger generation, we usually have to do a lot more talking and a lot more convincing to make them realize, okay, it's important for you to be involved in the process. There are some young women who signed up of their own volition because it's what they want. There are some of us who are actually very passionate about it. But then for others, it takes a lot of talking to and a lot of convincing.
So you've spoken for youth inclusion. How
Yes.
easy would you say it's been in terms of including youth generally in the political sphere?
Young people are involved to an extent. We tend to talk a lot about what's going wrong with our country, what we think needs to be done to fix it. However, the level of involvement differs across groups. There are some who don't subscribe to actually joining the political process through an official political party. Those exist. And then there are those who are active, say, at grassroots level, the ones who contribute to campaigns, go from door to door, campaigning for candidates that they resonate with, that they believe in. But not many of them actually have the intentions of full-time political participation. So we've been able to get the conversation going. It's important to go from just saying this is what we want to happen to actually being in the system and contributing your quota to making all of that happen. So young people are involved. It's just, and there are also other factors. For instance, unemployment is a huge problem in this country. So before you can tell young people, for instance, and say, oh, join my party, let's join this campaign team, the first thing they want to talk to you about is we don't have jobs. So even when there are trainings or there are conferences or we need to go somewhere, many of them do not have the means to get themselves there. So that's also one factor that has limited the participation of young people in politics in Nigeria.
Conclusively, would you say that political parties have a role to play in attracting young people into the political sphere?
Yes.
What sort of role would you say they have, particularly for young females?
Citing an example with the APC Young Women Forum again, we created that in response to a very glaring difference in the level of participation for young men and young women. So political parties would do well to actually encourage participation, say, apart from just expecting people to come, they need to begin working on projects that would seem to attract young people, young women specifically. We talk about gender parity all the time, talk about gender equity. We could talk about the lack of representation of women across virtually all stages of government, from the executive to the legislature. We need that conversation to change, and we have a couple of development agencies like the IRI, it's things they work on, UNDP, there are lots of agencies like that, but parties especially need to display greater political will to actually get young women involved. It's difficult enough as it is. Many just believe what they ought to do is just marry, have kids or something. So there has to be a conscious effort to craft messages that appeal to that particular demography.
Well, Rinsola, Abiola, I must say thank you so much for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's the show today. We must acknowledge the mails from Emmanuel Mobi and Dr. David Oluwatobiju, who wrote us very thoughtful feedbacks, and all the messages we get on Twitter. Thank you. We look forward to more of that this week. Please use the handles which will show on your screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokbe Ogun. See you next week.